This is the digital channel of the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. I am Manoj Mainkar, and in the next half hour, I'll bring to you news updates from India and around the world, awareness videos on coronavirus by Government of India, and a lot more. We'll begin with the news updates.
This is the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. Namaskar. The news snippets. Read by Maria Albina Michael. 724,578 patients have recovered from COVID-19 in the country. In the last 24 hours, 24,491 people have recovered. 333,395 tests were conducted for COVID-19 in the country in the past 24 hours. Delhi reported less than 1,000 cases in the last 24 hours. The active cases are about 15,000. Health experts have urged against any lowering of guard in Delhi. India and US have carried out joint naval exercises in the Indian Ocean. India has also deployed 10 Jaguar maritime strike fighter aircrafts at the Car Nicobar Air Base that overlooks the maritime boundaries of Southeast Asia. British Health Secretary Matt Hancock has said in the House of Commons that there was promising news on the COVID-19 vaccine that is being developed by Oxford University and AstraZeneca. UK has ordered 100 million doses of the vaccine. Madhya Pradesh Governor Lalji Tandon has passed away after a prolonged illness. He was under treatment at a hospital in Lucknow. The President and Prime Minister have condoled Mr. Tandon's passing away. West Bengal to go in for twice-a-week total lockdown on Thursdays and Saturdays. The northeastern state of Sikkim is on complete lockdown from today till 27th July. EU leaders have reached a deal after marathon discussions at a summit in Brussels. French President Macron described the deal as a landmark. UK has suspended its extradition treaty with China over Hong Kong. Beijing has termed it as interference in its internal matter. The T20 Cricket World Cup that was to be held in Australia has been postponed. And that is the end of the news snippets. This is the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. We now bring you a special film-based program from our archives.
Let me start the talk with a quote from the film director about whom I am going to talk in the coming few minutes. While speaking to Patrick McGillade, American biographer, film historian and director, Adur Gopalakrishnan said, I quote, I am not just telling a story, it is beyond that. The story is just an excuse. I am trying to make the audience experience many things, not just that one thing, the story. The story is just an excuse to keep the audience inside the hole. Of course, there has to be this element of the audience wanting to know what happens next. That is why they stay there. Otherwise, they will walk out. The story is what keeps them sitting. But my primary goal is for the audience to share the experience I want to give them. Hopefully, an experience on many levels. Unquote. Adur's words say a lot about his philosophy of film as a medium of creative expression. A person with deep-rooted influences from the classical theatre traditions of Kerala, it is quite natural to him to believe that the story is an excuse in realizing a film. He is possibly the only director in Malayalam who never conceived direction as his role, as he always credited himself for realization for his role behind making a film. His handling of a narrative in a film, signifying many other layers of meaning, has come from the classical traditions of storytelling in India and especially in the performing arts of Kerala. All of Adur's films draw on the history and culture of his native Kerala. Recently in Delhi, during a conversation with viewers, he had replied to a question on why he has not made any film in Hindi, as Adur could do a film only in a language in which he thinks. It is an important statement on filmmaking. Relating the process of filmmaking to one's own language of thinking, in fact, is saying a lot. This itself challenges the idea of film as a universal language. This probably is putting forward an argument that a Godard is more communicated in French and a Ray more in Bengal. It does not in any way challenges the universal understanding of a Godard or Ray, but upholds local strengths of film as a medium of creative expression. Kerala's transition from feudalism to modernity serves as a backdrop to his complex meditations on the psychology of power, the nature of oppression, the corruption of patriarchy, and the coexistence of the modern and the feudal in post-independence democratic India. Elipatayam, his masterpiece, vividly captures the descent in paranoia of a man trapped within his feudal universe. In Mukhamukham, a study in failed idealism, a communist leader gives up on revolution and decides to go to sleep instead. Vidhayan, a parable-like story, deals with the abuse of power, the plight of the outsider, and the nature of a master-servant relationship. The more recent films, especially Anandaram, Madhulukal, Nizhalkuttu, and Kathapurushan, display a new concern with interiority and reflexivity, foregrounding time, memory, consciousness, and the nature of storytelling itself. Adur's genius lies in his ability to create visually complex films that operate on multiple levels, that are culture-specific and yet universal in significance. As Gauthaman Bhaskaran, his authorized biographer, said, one of the most critically acclaimed directors after Satyajit Ray, Adur's cinema is rooted in the Kerala milieu and often mirrors the community's concerns. He goes into history, though usually not beyond the 1940s, the period understands best for that, the one that he has lived through, to elaborate social situations and orders. To explain these, he examines the individual minutely. His pains and pleasures are laid bare. Unquote. Adur Gopalakrishnan was born on 3rd July 1941 in the village of Pallikal near Adur, Kerala. He started his artistic career as an actor in amateur plays when he was 8. Later he shifted his base to writing and direction and wrote and directed a few plays. After securing a degree in economics, political science and public administration in 1961 from the Gandhigram Rural Institute, where he got deeply influenced by the Gandhian ideals. For a short period, he worked as a government official near Dindigul in Tamil Nadu. In 1962, he left his job to study screenwriting and direction from the Pune Film Institute. With his classmates and friends, Adur established Chitralekha Film Society and Chalachitra Sahakarana Sangham, a cooperative of alternate filmmakers. The organization was the first film society in Kerala, and it aimed at production, distribution and exhibition of films in the cooperative sector in Kerala. Adur has scripted and directed 11 feature films and about 30 short films and documentaries. Notable amongst the non-feature films are those on Kerala's performing arts. Adur's debut film, the national award-winning Swayamvaram, is a landmark in Malayalam film history. The film was exhibited widely in various international film festivals, including those held in Moscow, Melbourne, London and Paris. The films that followed, namely Kodiyatam, Elipatayam, Mukhamukham, Anandaram, Madhulukal, Vidhayan and Kathapurushan, lived up to the reputation of his first film and were well received by critics at various film festivals and fetched him many awards. Adur's later films are Nizhalkuttu, narrating the experiences of an executioner who comes to know that one of his subjects was innocent, and Nalu Pennungal, a film adaptation of 4 short stories by Thagazhi Sivasankara Pillai. Apart from 9 feature films, he has over 30 short films and documentaries to his credit. His major documentaries are Guru Chenganur 1974, Yakshagana 1979, Chola Heritage in 1980, Krishnanatam in 1982, Kalamandalam Gopi in 1995, Kudiyattam in 2001, and Kalamandalam Ramankutti Nair in 2005. I am taking the rest of the time given to me here for talking about a particular film, Nidal Kuthu, Shadow Kill, that Adur made in 2002 on capital punishment. Shadow Kill is one of the most effective world classics made on capital punishment. The other films coming to my mind in this connection are Death by Hanging by Nagisa Oshima, a 1968 Japanese film, and Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge in 1962 by Robert Enrico, a short film about killing by Kieslowski in 1988, Dancer in the Darkness, a 2000 film by Lars von Trier, and the 2004 film Manners of Dying by Jeremy Peter Allen. Shadow Kill Nidal Kuthu narrates the intense inner life of an executioner in the Edsville Travancore, this southern Kerala. The person who is to be hanged is not appearing in the film at all. It is a highly noticeable absence in the film. By being visually absent, a subject is making a tremendous impact in a visual media by being present in the deeply growing guilt of an old executioner. A month before the day of execution, Kaliyappan, the hangman, through his prayers and local medicinal knowledge, was trying to give life to many ailing people in his neighborhood. Eventually, Kaliyappan became unable to do his duty on the fateful day, and hence the hangman, instead of killing the person who was expected to be, was killing the hangman in himself. At the same time, his son, an active freedom fighter and Gandhian, who was accompanying the ailing father hangman, was forced to do the hanging. While hanging an innocent, in fact, Adur is establishing the death of justice too in a major critique on capital punishment. As Adur has mentioned in the interview to Patrick McGilligan, the director is taking the story of the hangman as an excuse to narrate many things around the many-layered theme, depicting the philosophical and ethical issues around the capital punishment.
You were listening to a special film-based program from our archives. This program came to you from the General Overseas Service of All India Radio.
In December 2019, there was a cluster of pneumonia cases in the city of Wuhan in China. Some of the early cases had reported visiting or working in a seafood and live animal market in Wuhan. Investigations found that the disease was caused by a newly discovered coronavirus. The disease was subsequently named COVID-19. COVID-19 spread within China and to the rest of the world. On 30 January 2020, the World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern. In this video, we'll take a quick look at what is currently known about COVID-19. Keep in mind that this is a new disease, and what's known is rapidly evolving and might change in the future. So what is a coronavirus? Coronaviruses are a large group of viruses. They consist of a core of genetic material surrounded by a lipid envelope with protein spikes. This gives it the appearance of a crown. Crown in Latin is called corona, and that's how these viruses get their name. There are different types of coronaviruses that cause illness in animals and humans. In humans, coronaviruses can cause respiratory infections ranging from the common cold to more severe diseases. These include the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, first identified in China in 2003, the Middle East respiratory syndrome coronavirus that was first identified in Saudi Arabia in 2012, and SARS-CoV-2, the name of the virus that causes COVID-19 that was first reported in December 2019. So, where did this new virus come from? It's known that coronaviruses circulate in a range of animals. Sometimes these viruses can make the jump from animals to humans. This is called a spillover and could be due to a range of factors, such as mutations in the virus or increased contact between humans and animals. For example, MERS-CoV is known to be transmitted from camels, and SARS-CoV from civet cats. The animal reservoir of the new coronavirus is not known yet. How does the disease spread? The disease can spread from person to person through droplets, when an infected person releases those droplets through coughing, talking, or sneezing, for example, when close to another person. It can also spread when infected droplets land on objects, and when another person touches them and then touches their eyes, nose, or mouth. What are the symptoms? The incubation period, which is the time taken from exposure to the virus and development of symptoms, is on average 5 to 6 days, but can range from 1 to 14 days. There can be a range of symptoms, from very mild to severe. Some people may not develop symptoms. Common symptoms include fever, fatigue, and respiratory symptoms such as cough, sore throat, and shortness of breath. Some people reported loss of their sense of taste or smell, and some may develop a skin rash. In more severe cases, there could be pneumonia, organ failure, and sometimes death. About 80% of cases recover from the disease without needing special treatment. But there are some people who are at risk of serious illness. They include older people or people with underlying medical problems, such as chronic respiratory disease, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, or cancer. How can we tell whether someone is infected? The infection is commonly diagnosed by a test called reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction, generally known as PCR. This test identifies the virus based on its genetic fingerprint. There's also a blood test that can check for antibodies against the virus, which may show that someone was infected in the past. How is it treated? The treatment for COVID-19 is mainly supportive care. Medicines against the virus are currently under investigation. How do we prevent transmission of the virus? There are a number of effective ways to prevent the spread of the disease. These include covering your mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing with a flexed elbow or tissue, and throwing the tissue in a closed bin immediately after use. Wash hands regularly with soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub, maintaining at least 1 meter distance from people, and the appropriate use of masks and personal protective equipment, especially in health settings. It's important to stay home if you're feeling unwell and to call a hotline or your medical professional. But if you have a fever, cough, or difficulty breathing, seek medical care early and share your travel history or contact with someone unwell with your healthcare provider. In some areas, governments have implemented specific physical and social distancing measures to prevent the spread of the outbreak. It's important to follow their advice. Vaccines to prevent COVID-19 are currently under development, and scientists around the world are working hard to make this happen. That's a quick look at this emerging infectious disease. We're still learning about this virus every day, and what's known may change. So please, check the website below for the most up-to-date information.
You are with us on the General Overseas Service of All India Radio.
You are tuned to the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. We now bring you today's commentary, India-US Strategic Energy Partnership, a win-win for all. It is scripted by Shankar Kumar and read by Kaushik Rai. India has taken a significant step towards energy security. New Delhi has signed a Memorandum of Understanding MOU with the US for cooperation on strategic petroleum reserves, operation and maintenance. This move is of immense importance. It was accomplished last week during the second ministerial meeting of the Indo-US Strategic Energy Partnership, an initiative which was established at the direction of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump in April 2018. With the signing of such MOU, the country will not only be able to ensure uninterrupted energy supply in the event of geopolitical turmoil, but also shield itself from unprecedented oil price volatility, as was seen in 2008, causing immense stress to the exchequer. Further, to overcome challenges from disruptions in its oil supply or volatility in the international oil price, India wants to increase its strategic oil stockpile by storing crude oil in the US Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Discussions between the two sides are at an advanced stage right now. Currently, India has 5.33 million tons of oil storage facility, enough to meet the country's energy requirement for 9.5 days. Under the rubric of Strategic Energy Partnership, both India and the US are also keen to maximize the benefit of each other's experience and knowledge. The announcement by the two governments for research in the areas of transformational power generation based on supercritical carbon dioxide power cycles and advanced coal technologies for power generation and hydrogen production should be seen in this context. To scale up technologies for producing hydrogen from renewable energy and fossil fuel sources and to bring down the cost of energy production, both India and the US have launched a public-private hydrogen task force. While this is seen as a visionary step in the direction of clean energy, what is noteworthy is India and the US's keenness to boost collaboration between them for the development of technology for renewable energy generation. Both sides are also keen in expanding cooperation for utilizing the economic value of converting bio-waste into biogas. The two countries would also jointly organize the first ever solar decathlon in India in 2021. Under this program, a collegiate level competition has been planned in order to prepare the next generation of professionals to design and build high efficiency buildings powered by renewables. Under the Strategic Energy Partnership, both sides are already engaged in modernizing the distribution sector so that reliable, quality 24/7 power supply could be availed by the people. Modernization of the distribution sector also involves deployment of smart meters across the countries, setting up of smart grid knowledge center. Besides, USAID and US International Development Finance Corporation are developing a concept to establish a new $25 million worth of credit guarantee for the small and medium enterprises SME sector to deploy rooftop solar. Overall aim of India and the US is to support each other's vision of national development in the energy sector. The same perspective was shared by India's Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Dharmendra Pradhan, who represented the country at the second India-US Strategic Energy Partnership. According to Mr. Pradhan, besides fostering bilateral energy trade and investments, India and the US are seeking to align energy cooperation with energy security, expanding energy and innovation linkages across the energy sectors of the two countries. New Delhi and Washington are also keen for an increased industry and stakeholder engagement as well as among institutions of excellence from both countries. During 2019-20, bilateral hydrocarbon trade touched $9.2 billion US, accounting to 10% of the overall trade. The two sides have also seen significant reduction in the trade deficit. India is currently the fourth largest buyer of US crude and the fifth largest buyer of US liquefied natural gas. This shows while India has the market, the US has oil and gas reserves and advanced technology. In this context, the India-US Strategic Energy Partnership is a win-win situation for both. That was today's commentary entitled India-US Strategic Energy Partnership, a win-win for all. It was scripted by Shankar Kumar, journalist, and read by Kaushik Rai.
This commentary came to you from the General Overseas Service of All India Radio.
This broadcast came to you from the digital channel of the General Overseas Service of All India Radio.